Danny White, as we mentioned yesterday, gets a lot of money. The highest paid athletic director in what, Caleb?
The highest paid athletic director in the SEC and among all public college ADs.
So that's good money if you can get it. In retrospect, because that happened right before we went on the air, I absolutely love the move because I think it is emblematic of Tennessee's philosophy. And that is believe a little bit and you'll be taken care of. Cooper Mace, believe in this program. Stay an extra year and you'll be taken care of. Brew McCoy, come back. You'll be taken care of. Now, I know there were extenuating circumstances in those, but we don't know all of those that came back that could have gone. I'm sure there were some guys that thought about leaving that had an offer from somewhere else, Caleb. And from what we've been told, they let the defensive backs go who weren't very good. They let Tyler Barron go, who apparently didn't like Rodney Garner. But I'm not aware that they lost anybody that they really, really wanted. And I'm not talking about what's reported. I'm talking about people I've spoken to. I don't think they lost anybody that they said, man, he's a real necessity for the program or that we even like.
Right. And look, on principle, I'm actually okay with having paid Danny White what they paid him. I'll be honest with you on that. I'm going to come at it, though, from a different perspective, Dave, and you can push back on me if you want with this, but I do think it's ironic that Danny White is the highest paid athletic director in the SEC when on new hires, he's shelling out the least amount of money, it seems like, of any major college football program to make them. And
okay, but Caleb, that speaks to my point. Who are his primary hires? Kim Caldwell and Josh Heupel.
He
inherited Rick Barnes. So Kim Caldwell on the cheap, that's a non-revenue sport. So sorry, but that's just kind of where you are. So I understand the spending from a budgetary standpoint. Josh Heupel, they couldn't have done any better than Josh Heupel. At that point, I don't know that they could have gotten Dave Doran with the backdrop. So did they hire him on the cheap? Probably, but did Tennessee have any other option? I seriously doubt it. They were a disaster in the background. So if Josh Heupel, I guess my question is this. If Josh Heupel wins a championship or two and the Dallas Cowboys hire him away,
okay,
do you think that Danny White would be able to do in Alabama? And what was in Alabama? They went from Saban to one of the best youngish coaches in the nation. He just played for a college football playoff and played in the college football playoff. And you're able to hire him away from his school. That's kind of embarrassing for Washington. But Caleb, do you think Danny White would do that? Because I think he would. I don't think he would be on the cheap if he had the money and he had the backdrop to go out and woo somebody.
Okay, so that's where the real question comes. And I actually think that Danny White still may make the hire on the cheap because of what you just talked about. The belief that you earn your stripes and then you get your pay at Tennessee. And also Danny White, I'll say this, with his getting out ahead of the curve of NIL, I think Danny White kind of knows that half of a coach's success is the support from the administration. And I think he knows the administration is going to make it significantly easier for any coach he hires to be successful. So I think because of that, he'll still go for the unknown commodity that nobody sees coming. And that's just always been his hiring method. Here's the funny thing, Dave, about this, and this is the truth. That type of hiring, if it doesn't work, you get really mad at the athletic director, right?
Sure.
I mean, if the athletic director hires a no name that you're like, where'd they hire him from? And then it's a disaster. They look even worse. Nobody gets mad at an athletic director if you threw a bunch of money at Jimbo Fisher or Brian Kelly because you wanted to try to win a national title and it doesn't work out. No one's going to get mad at you for that. They are going to get mad, though, if you went cheap and tried to hire a no-name like Ron Zook at Florida in 2001 or 2002 to just and think you identified somebody that nobody did, and then it fails. Danny White always takes that risk when he's hiring, and it seems to always work out. So I think that's why it pays off for him so well. Now, and then you're right. Once you produce, he will pay you. I don't think he would make the Kalen DeBoer hire if he were at Alabama had that job opened up. I think he would have identified somebody that nobody saw coming, and it would have been a no-name, and everybody would have been upset with the hire at the time, because I think that's what Danny White does.
I tend to disagree. It obviously matters what's happening at that point in college football, but I actually think that Danny White's underpaid, and here's why. Because we're thinking about he's one of the most highest paid athletic directors in college football, right?
Right.
Are you telling me that Danny White, with what he has done with NIL, with what he has done with the Neyland Entertainment District, which you can hate it or love it, that's up to you, but that's raising a lot of money. Are you telling me he wouldn't be a great GM for a football team in the NFL? Are you telling me he couldn't do other things? With his ability to raise money, Mike Hamilton was a great example. He raised a ton of money for charity after things didn't work out at Tennessee. Those guys have that innate ability. You have to look at Danny White as a businessman that Apple could poach, that somebody else could poach. I think this is bigger than just the SEC or college football.
I think the raising money part is what's unique about White is actually not the raising money part, though. I think it's the hiring. I think it's the way he identifies coaches before anybody else. I've never seen an athletic director as good at it as he is. So I'm with you with the raising money part, Dave. I actually might agree with you that he's underpaid. Here's why with the philosophy. I'm not even knocking the going cheap hire, because if it works out, it works out. Here's White's philosophy. I want to be cheap in hiring on the front end, but I'll shell out money if they're successful. And here's why. If they're successful, the fans will show up and you'll have the money to shell out. Tennessee is one of those programs, right, Dave, where if a program is winning, I don't care what it is, track and field even, whatever the sports program is, if that program is winning, the fan support for that program will be top 5 relative to any other program in that sport in the country. Is that fair to say?
Very, very fair to say.